Good evening. Welcome to Movie Watch Live with me, Pete Mack. And again, joining me tonight is my guest and good friend, Carl Hungus. Good evening, Carl.
Hail, Mr. Otter. How are you this evening, sir?
I am very well, thank you, Mr. Ben.
So we finally got around to our first Western, and this is a big one, folks. This is the Magnificent Seven. And wow, it's a great film. Take it away. Let's see what we're going to do. What do you want? Yeah, Pete, what do you think?
Yeah, finally got round to do the Western, that's right, yeah.
So let me ask you this, just on a like an academic level, how do you as a Brit approach Westerns? Because I mean, it's kind of like I imagine the same sort of way we approach,
Knights and Shining.
Yeah, Knights and Shining.
Yeah, similar. Yeah, it's interesting that. Yeah, because growing up, well, at least when I grew up, I don't know what it's like now, but when I grew up, Western movies were on all the time, and I think it's when you're watching as an outsider, you sort of think all of America's like this, and it's all about cowboys and Indians, but without the sort of like the historical context and living in the country which has got that history, you sort of look at it as a form of entertainment, and you look at it like you look at it as if it's some sort of extreme version of the world. It's you can see as a kid, you know it's not real.
Are there things that just because of cultural differences that you just don't quote get about certain aspects of Westerns or American culture in that regard?
I think it's as a kid you absorb it all, and you go out, you play cowboys and Indians, or I used to do that, and the idea of having a horse, having a gun, being drifting from one place to another, it's all very romantic stuff, and it really sparks off the imagination as a kid. So I don't think there's a lot of it lost in translation, but definitely the ideas of liberty that you have as an American, some of that doesn't transfer into British life because we don't have that huge area of land that used to be occupied by native tribes and by the cowboys, the gunslingers, all of that. The nearest we came to it was highwaymen, things like that, in the 18th century. And we have had lawlessness and border wars and things like that. But it's one of those uniquely American things. The closest I think that comes to it is things like Ned Kelly, the story of Ned Kelly in Australia.
Oh yeah, that's obviously Australia and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be kind of equivalent to sort of like the border wars between England and Scotland in like the 15 and 1600s.
Yeah, that's right.
The reaving families and stuff, raiding each other's lands and stealing cattle.
Well, that's right. I mean, you've also got the period of Civil War in England, which there's some movies about it, but not a lot because the established order in Britain don't like talking about it too much because it's the one time where we got rid of our royalty and then we brought them back again. But that's quite interesting as a period as well. But yeah, I mean the border wars and the Reaver period, and also there's various other Civil War periods where we had civil disorder, like the War of the Roses. We also had the
that's
earlier...
so British of you, Pete, just to refer to the War of the Roses as a period of civil unrest. Yeah. Like 30 years of fucking butchery.
That's it. Exactly. It was a little bit uncomfortable.
Unrest.
A tad uncomfortable. It's the understatement of everything, isn't it? It's like if we'd had like the Battle of Gettysburg, it would have been, well, it was a hot day and not very comfortable. That's how I would have characterized it,
Very stiff upper lip. Yeah.
El Alamo would have been, oh well, there was many more of them than there were of us, but never mind.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So that's the way it goes. But I mean, tonight this movie we watched Seven Samurai last week, and what an amazing movie that is. And what we're going to do tonight is look at the similarities between the two, because what we're doing right now is we're looking how these universal stories translate from one culture to another. Kurosawa was influenced by Western movies, and his films in turn influenced Western directors like John Ford, and then, you know, vice versa. Ford influenced Kurosawa. Kurosawa's movies went on to influence other people like George Lucas, went on to influence the Star Wars movies, went on to influence other movies. So this idea, what we're doing right now, is how these stories influence each other and how we're telling the same stories, and they're going from one culture to the next. So what I'm going to do is I've got my movie ready to start here. I'm watching on DVD. Carl's watching on Amazon, isn't it, Carl?
Yeah, on Amazon Prime, for anyone that's watching, it's free if you have Amazon Prime Video. So lock and load.
Absolutely. So I'm ready to go. So as usual, what we'll do is, if hopefully whoever's watching live or recorded, you want to watch along with us, you'll have it on some format or another. We'll count down from 3 to 1, and I'll say go. And on the count of go, you'll just start your movie going. And if you need any timestamps throughout the whole thing, just let us know. Anybody who comes to join us in later, just let us know why you're here by typing into the chat. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll respond to you in the chat there. But without further ado, I'll get this started. So if you're ready, Carl, I'll start the countdown. So we're ready to go on 3, 2, 1, go.
All right.
So there you are. I've got the lion there.
I've got the lion too. We're good. So yeah, what was this? 1960. John Sturges directed.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. There's that Elmer Bernstein.
Yes. Absolutely amazing soundtrack.
Elmer Bernstein was one of those guys. He was like, during the 1950s and 60s, there was like 3 or 4 dudes that were consistently working, putting out great scores. We're talking like Henry Mancini, Elmer Bernstein, even John Williams got a start in the 60s. So, I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
This is that good.
Absolutely. I mean, the role of stars here as well: Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, Robert Vaughn, Brad Dexter, James Coburn, Horst Buchholz, which didn't get much. He didn't get much after that. Who plays Eli Wallach? What an amazing actor. Who plays, obviously.
Yeah, Horst Buchholz. That's the young guy, right?
Yeah, Horst Buchholz is the young guy.
An ironic name for a man who looks Latino.
Yeah, he plays Chico, the young hot-blooded shootist.
You know what? Just sitting here listening to this as we're talking about it, I'm getting pumped for the movie.
Absolutely, it is.
This is the sound of an American-style Western. When we watch spaghetti Westerns, you'll see a different style and sound and message it conveys. But this is conveying like hope, and it's conveying things like heroism, and you can do anything. It kind of makes you feel that way listening to it.
Absolutely. It is perfectly timed as well, the energy and the timing of it. And, it drives the film forward.
Credit the Seven Samurai right there. You see that?
Yeah, well, here we go. This is the Mexican village which is being attacked or regularly raided by a local group of bandits. And the bandits have come along to the village directly. So this is different from Seven Samurai, where they just sort of go near the village and decide to come back later. In this version, they're going directly into the village.
Very aggressive.
Yeah,
very aggressive.
Yeah. Eli Wallach plays Calvera, the leader of the Mexican bandit gang.
So this would be somewhere in northern Mexico, probably around the Texas, New Mexico border area. That'd be like the state of Sonora, which is or Sonora, somewhere in there.
I don't know what year it's based in, because it could even be in what is now today Texas.
It's post 1872, because you can tell by the rifles they're using.
Yeah,
those are Winchester 72s or later.
Yeah. And there's the Mexican bandit theme.
Yeah, that menacing kind of
Yeah.
yeah. And the old Adobe mission there, that's
Yeah.
probably 100 years old, 200 years old.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing performance from Eli Wallach here. There's the, watch yourself in the water.
Right. He's
And
just such a nasty piece of work. I mean, he comes off as all nice right here, but he quickly becomes menacing.
yeah, I wonder how much of this he went on to later use in Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
I assure you, his performance here is what got him the job.
Yeah. He's even limping to show that, he's been riding too long.
Yeah, he has like sore ass or something.
Yeah.
He's got some snazzy looking pants there, buddy. The stripy pants.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's
got the little leather lining on the inside for horseback riding, which is it's nice to put that little touch in costume,
And also he's already helping himself to the a cigar, mezcal or tequila, and everything else. So now,
if you ever want to know what California looks like, it looks like that.
This must have been filmed in California. It must have been, surely.
Probably was, but that's what it looks like. Don't believe the lies. But 90% of California looks just like that: mountains and piss brown dirt and grass. Oh yeah, there he goes. So he went from being all friendly to just being a complete a-hole.
Yeah, and now he's complaining, saying that it's the farmer's fault and that the bandits have it bad. Things are hard for the bandits, and it's everybody else's fault. That sounds familiar. It sounds like a group of people that we often talk about, who, are, for the want of a better word, contributing nothing, and apparently it's everybody else's fault.
You could set this story right here with how they're setting it up as, these guys could be a group of mercenaries in Italy during the Renaissance or something. It's just it's so adaptable to any way you want to tell this story, you can tell it.
Exactly. I might try to get the subtitles on here as well, so I don't have to have the volume too high.
Yeah, mine are on.
Yeah. And now, just for the hell of it, he shot one of the villagers who's tried to attack him. Now, why not? Yeah. So it does look like the late 1870s, the period, the gun he's got and everything.
It's at least early 1870s.
Yeah, that looks like a Colt that he's got there.
It is. That's a Colt Peacemaker.
Yeah, I thought so.
1870.
Yeah, it's got to be 1870s, 1880s, roughly around that time, isn't it?
Most quote unquote cowboy movies tend to be set in the 1870s to 1880s.
Morgoth's in the chat there. Hello, Morg. I'm pro bandit, of course, now that I'm a progressive.
Hail Morg.
Yeah.
God help us if he joins the bandits. The seven are screwed.
Yeah. So very similar opening to Seven Samurai. This, I mean, we were saying in the last stream how a lot of this doesn't translate, but some of it does. And so I don't remember any farmers getting killed at the start of Seven Samurai, but
that was just to demonstrate these guys are just extra nasty.
Yeah, and this is the bit where they start complaining and they have to do something about it. So I'm guessing we're going to see the old man of the village. It's so long since I've seen this movie, I have to admit.
It's been about 10 years since I've actually watched. I've actually watched Seven Samurai a couple times as opposed to this. But yeah.
And this, of course, we're talking about the soundtrack being brilliant. For the movie, this was made in that period of time, which produced so many really great, what you call a brigade or when you have several really famous actors in a cast. It's called
like an ensemble.
That's it, ensemble piece. And thanks for reminding me. I don't know why these words escape me sometimes, but as Steve Dye would say, it's the filing cabinet, brother. But yeah, it's an ensemble piece. And then in the same period, you had things like The Great Escape with McQueen
he
in
also
as well.
did The Great Escape. John Sturges directed The Great Escape.
Exactly, yeah. So
did Elmer Bernstein do The Great Escape's theme?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I think Elmer Bernstein also did the theme for the Ten Commandments.
Yeah. So in the same vein, in the same era, and these are all, a fantastic period of time in the early 60s for these kind of things. And then you had another fantastic ensemble piece, not really related to this, which was the original Italian Job. So the British film industry was making ensemble pieces as well. Yeah. And of course the original Ocean's movies as well. So this is the bit where they're meeting the old guy in the village.
Was there an original before the Sinatra version?
Ooh, I don't know. This is where we're now moved forward to this local town. Now it's not supposed to be Boot Hill, where the cemetery is, but it's modeled on that, isn't it? It's like
there's got to be something weird about the playback speed between what's going on in Britain and what's going on in America, because now I'm just finally at the town right now.
I'm at the town, and the three of them are
riding in,
walking down.
Yeah, that kind of like graveyard on top of the hill above the dusty, jacked up town. That's kind of like a Western trope.
I tell you what I'm going to do. If you keep watching the film and commentating on it, I'm just going to go back to the menu and switch the subtitles on, because I need to get those on.
Yeah, so now these three fellas from the village are trying to find anyone that's willing to help their case. And they don't really know where to go because they're kind of fish out of water here too. This is an American town, obviously. They've crossed the border from Mexico into the United States.
Here we go. I'm back with you again now.
Right. Oh, great. Perfect. So now they're coming to, what's that, a livery stable or something?
Yeah, I'm at the bit where they're already talking to the Undertaker, so I'm going to slow my speed down a little bit.
All right, so these two gentlemen are just talking to this one guy in the Undertaker just now.
Yeah, I'm going to.
So you're good. You're good. I mean, we're better off than we usually are, Pete.
There we are. I've slowed it down slightly. Yeah, and this guy's famous actor as well, who's playing the Undertaker. I forget who he is now, but
he's one of those actors that you don't know his name, but you recognize him if you've seen him before.
Yeah, there's Yul Brynner. So Yul Brynner was Ukrainian, wasn't he? A Russian Ukrainian.
Russian Ukrainian, yeah.
And strangely, in this movie, he's playing he's supposed to be Cajun. Yul Brynner plays Chris Adams, a Cajun gunslinger.
Chris Adams. Is that how they're accounting for his accent?
Yeah, they're making him out to be a Cajun.
Well, I mean, no one can understand what the hell Cajuns are saying anyway, so no offense to any Cajuns out there.
Yeah. So these two guys have come into the town, foreign investors, and don't understand why this guy's not being buried.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of a local disagreement. Now, this isn't in the original Seven Samurai movie at all, but it's a setup to see whether Yul Brynner's character, he's the reimagination of.
This isn't the movie. This is the version of what's his name, rescuing the child.
Yeah, the child from. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's when he goes in and rescues the child. This is like, I'll bury the guy.
Right.
So it's
basically it's set up so the villagers can take the measure of the man and decide if they want to hire him.
Yeah. And McQueen's there watching. Now, McQueen's the equivalent of he plays Vin Tanner, the Drifter. And I mean, Steve McQueen really always just plays Steve McQueen, doesn't he?
Steve McQueen can play Steve McQueen whenever Steve McQueen wants to play Steve McQueen.
Exactly. I mean, McQueen's one of those actors.
His performance in the Great Escape is just one of my favorite in the history of cinema. You know, I mean, he doesn't get any cooler. He plays the coolest guy in the room no matter what he plays.
Yeah, I mean, that's iconic. You can't get better than that. The way he keeps going into gets sent to the cell all the time for
being an insubordinate.
I think I'm having a Steve Dye moment here again. What is it called when you set solitary confinement? Yeah.
You do both have a couple of years on me, so I mean there is that. Mine goes first.
Now, exactly. But this is a sort of this whole scene here, and the way the camera follows both the crowd and the carriage, and you know that there's people on the buildings who are waiting to shoot them, so they're already looking out for.
Also, note the fact that Chris is dressed in black in a time when Hollywood movies tended to dress their good characters in white, at least with their white hats. He's wearing a black hat.
Yeah.
Which in American cinema basically means he's a bad guy.
Yeah, and the other thing which strikes me about this is, Yul Brynner went on to play a character in Westworld, which was essentially this character.
Yeah, exactly.
With exactly the same costume. Yeah.
Same outfit and everything.
Yeah, he was the original. Yul Brynner was the original Terminator.
Well, he had to come back for 4 sequels to this film, so he may as well just keep the suit.
Morg just said the Undertaker was Whit Bissell, per the magic oracle device I used to look things up. Morg has some sort of magical machine called the internet.
He tapped into his wokeness and figured it out.
Be careful, Morg. You might end up looking at the eye of Sauron through that thing.
Well, he's Sauron's master because he's Morgoth, right?
Yes, exactly. Now, here we go. So they're getting near the top of the hill, and
he's got to recruit Joyful Dude to be his Sauron.
Yeah. Yeah, this is clearly California, isn't it? Look at the scenery.
And they probably filmed it in San Fernando Valley or somewhere like that.
Yeah. And here they are reaching the top of the hill, confronted by these guys who are going to refuse him. It's some sort of local feud. They won't let the guy be buried in the cemetery. Now he's got like a Cajun accent. That guy's spoken there. And Yul's so good, he's just shot the gun out of his hand. Is that possible?
Shot him in the arm.
Oh yeah, he shot him in the arm as well. Yeah, and then a bigger target.
There's a kid there looking at him adoringly, just like in the Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the guy did aim the shotgun at him. He was justified to shoot him, I suppose.
That's it. A lot of similarities between this movie and the previous one. What would be good is if we look at the reasons why there's similarities, and also there's a lot of differences as well, because it's trying to be a Western, and it is a Western, but it's also trying to hark back to the original movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. They've managed to do what they wanted to do. Success. And now the farmers are convinced they've got to recruit this guy because he's a genius. And that music as well, the victory theme, absolutely chill down my spine when I hear that. Now, the character of Steve McQueen, Vintana, he's the version of the old friend that the samurai has in Seven Samurai, the leader of the Seven Samurai.
Right.
They know each other and they've known each other for a while, but in this movie, they're just sort of getting to know each other. And that's symbolic of this whole story because cowboys or gunslingers are just drifting and grifting around. But some of them would have known each other. I mean, they would all sort of heard of each other and bumped into each other, even though America's a big place.
This was a period when you didn't have television. Mm-hmm. So they would write novels about some of these guys, like Buffalo Bill Cody and Wild Bill Hickok would have little dime novels written about them, and they'd circulate around. So I mean, yeah, a lot of these guys had reputations, and they would have known each other, even if they were small, no-name dudes working on ranches and stuff. They'd get around. I mean, you
Yeah,
might work in 10 years at 4 different ranches, and over the course of time. So I mean, you're going to know people. So
yeah. Morg says I fired Sauron years ago. Good guy though. He goes by Terry now. Okay. The other thing is as well that the Hail Black Russian Bot.
Hail Black Russian Bot.
The other thing is as well that this is, you were talking about those little books that were going around in the Old West. That was the origin of the comic book, wasn't it? Those Tales of Guts and Glory.
It kind of was. I mean, I don't think they were illustrated or anything, but yeah, it would be simple stories to entertain you while you have nothing else to do. I mean, there's other things to do if you're nothing else wholesome to do, really. I mean, you could go gamble or you could go carouse and drink and all that stuff, but
yeah.
And that's part of what pushed the mythology of the American West was the dime novels and the newspaper coverage of some of the exploits of these larger than life characters.
Yeah. Which of course was played up in films like Unforgiven, where the writer's trying to write down these exploits and he gets to find out it's not the romantic thing that he thought it was.
Yeah, I think The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance did it better.
Yeah.
And they did it 30 years earlier.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing. Yeah, it's like the history, the takeaway quote from that is if you have the facts and between the story and the facts, print the story or something like that.
So here's the group of farmers come to meet Yul Brynner's character to plead with him to help them. We can see you're a man we can trust. Thank you very much. We wish you to help us. And now they're explaining the situation. So basically, an Old West style. This is for anybody who's just joined us. This is Magnificent Seven. We're watching an Old West style remake of Akira Kurosawa's Japanese film Seven Samurai. There's only 6 years separate this call. Seven Samurai was made in 1954, and this was made in 1960. So a lot of people might not realize that there's only 6 years between both movies.
Well, I mean, Kurosawa films in 1954 probably did not make it to the United States and get the kind of exposure that it would have wanted. I mean, this is right after World War II, right? So, but the people that are our age are the guys that fought in World War II. So, Kurosawa films probably were not that popular in the United States, but what was popular was the Western.
Yeah.
And this is how you get that same story
to
the Western audience.
Yeah.
And maybe after a time they go back and check out the Kurosawa films, which is how I came about it. And, it's, it works.
Well,
I mean, go ahead.
Sorry. I mean, looking at how it became one of the most iconic movies, 2013, it was selected for the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. So it's become part of American culture. This,
and then of course Hollywood decided to trample upon that by remaking the film a few years later.
It was awful. I have to say, sorry for anybody who likes the remake. The remake was absolutely awful. It's an old American phrase, isn't it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I just like the look of the Technicolor too. I mean, Technicolor it has that look to it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you can't remake things, because this is a remake and there was other remakes, but they did something different with it in a different genre. This is what we're talking about. Whereas if you're going to just try and create a carbon copy of something and you do it worse, like the new Star Wars films, for instance, Carl, which are absolute crap.
It's shite. But yeah, I mean, this isn't really so much a remake as a reimagining. Yeah, I mean, this does remake the Seven Samurai, but it does it extremely well. I mean, can you imagine when was the last time we had a movie like this out of Hollywood? Seriously.
Yeah, I know. Could they do it now? Could they make a movie like this now?
I mean, there's nothing preachy in this film. There's nothing, too over the top with violence and sex or anything like that. And and it's so well made. The story's solid. The music's great. It top marks all around.
Well, do you know why? Do you know why Yul Brynner was the leader of the group of gunslingers?
You tell me.
Because it's him that approached Walter Mirisch, the guy who the producer of the movie. He approached him and said, "Let's do a remake of Kurosawa's Seven Samurai."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how Yul Brynner got the job, but he was also hugely influential in all the not remakes, but the sequels. I think he even got executive producer credits on some of them. So this is partially his baby, huh?
It was, yeah. This was the thing he wanted to do. I mean, Yul absolutely loved the fact that he could be an American. He could live in America and have the liberties there. Coming from somewhere like he came from at the time, the conditions he was living under, being able to live in America and have the freedoms he had. It was just, this is something which is a continually repeated story. It's the outsider who would value the freedoms of America more sometimes than some Americans themselves who sort of got used to it.
Because, unless you realize what you're missing, you take it for granted, right?
Exactly. And this is a theme I've noticed with a lot of these foreign actors.
Hey, they're doing the same thing basically with The Door.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to do the same trick. And they're going to expect someone to come through the door and test them that way. So it's exactly the same trick as the stick trick in...
this is the friend right here, Harry.
Yeah, here we go. Now, this is the first guy coming through.
Yeah.
And he knows straight away there's somebody behind the door. It's like the way they're looking and everything.
Yeah, I think it was a Cajun, so I guess it's canon. Chris is a Cajun.
Now, this is right. So this is Harry. Okay, this is Harry Luck, the fortune seeker, played by Brad Dexter. Now, Harry is his friend from ages ago. He's known him for ages. So this is the exact same character as in Seven Samurai. In Seven Samurai, this guy survives, and it's him and the leader and the young lad. So
we'll see.
You've got the setup already. So Steve McQueen is the equivalent of Toshiro Mifune's character.
Yeah, he's kind of yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
100%. He's kind of disheveled and yeah.
And we've got Breon in the chat. Hail, Breon. Yeah, so the Steve McQueen character, I'm not sure translates in the same way as Toshiro Mifune had portrayed the role. But I can see where they're going with it because he's unorthodox, completely unorthodox.
Right, and like we were talking off air, there's not going to be a complete translation because of the cultural role of samurai versus the cultural role of cowboys or gunslingers. It's not a direct translation. There's no feudalism involved, no obligation of loyalty kind of thing. So exactly. It doesn't really translate exactly, but it's as close an equivalent as you're going to get.
Yeah, exactly.
Century America.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically, going back to what I was saying earlier, the United Artists got hold of the rights from Toho Studios in Japan. Brenner was actually sued for breach of contract by Anthony Quinn, who claimed that he and Brenner had developed it together.
Really? Who won that lawsuit?
Well, Quinn ultimately lost it. Because there wasn't anything in writing, so did Yul Brynner screw over his friend and co-writer. But yeah, after that, the script was commissioned. Walter Bernstein got the first draft, and it was actually written from the original script by Shinobu Hashimoto, and Hideo Guni and Kurosawa, who worked with them to help them produce the script. So because Kurosawa was quite keen to work with Americans because he was an artist. He valued working together with other writers and directors.
Right.
But the casting, the members of the cast before Robert Vaughn died very recently in 2016, he was the last surviving member of the main cast. Now, Rosenda Monteros, who plays the love interest in this movie, was the last surviving cast member altogether until her death just December 29th last year. So it's quite recent. Only 6 months ago, the last cast member of this movie died. So now there's no surviving cast members.
Now they're rolling up on someone's little shack, huh?
So I'm at, if anybody's watching, have you got a timestamp?
I'm at 29:08 right now.
Right, I'm a little bit behind because I slowed mine down, so I'm gonna put mine on normal speed.
All right.
Now,
you tell me the moment you get to Charles Bronson, and I'll unpause it.
Okay, well, I'm still in the bar right now where they're discussing how many people they've got, and McQueen's just joined them now, and they're galloping up the side of a hill here towards the village. So it's McQueen and Brenner. And they're just getting to a little hut here or a shack at the top of the hill.
Yeah, there we go. And now tell me when they see Charles Bronson, he'll be chopping wood, and I'll unpause mine.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so Bronson, this really set up Bronson as well, this movie, didn't it? Because he appeared in a bunch of other movies after this, which were westerns, and he was in Spaghetti Western as well, wasn't he? Was it Once Upon a Time in the West? Or
Once Upon a Time in the West, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so here we go. Exactly like the scene in Seven Samurai. I don't think he's the comedian like the guy in Seven Samurai. Charles Bronson's not exactly what you would call a light-hearted guy.
He's like, a little dour.
Yeah. Yeah. He's proper moody.
We would call it emo.
Yeah.
So after this, he did a lot of these guys are also in. We're talking about The Great Escape. A lot of these guys were in The Great Escape too.
Yeah, they sort of transferred.
Coburn was in that.
Yep. I remember Bronson was in. He was actually in a western with Toshiro Mifune. Red Sun. It was called Red Sun. That was it. That's a strange movie. I don't know whether you've seen it. It's a weird movie, but it's worth watching. It's just really weird. It's when Toshiro Mifune was like at the point where he would do anything for money.
Yeah,
it's just so weird.
Wells' phase of his life where he's pimping out alcohol on television.
Yeah.
Big joke for a while because Orson Welles was what was it, cognac or something on television?
It was champagne. And it was like, try this. I don't know if in the chat knows that. Morg probably knows the brand of champagne. And you can watch it on YouTube, the advert, the outtakes. It's just totally pissed, completely. He just burns the finest grapes. Anyway, but yeah.
Right, to be introduced to James Coburn here.
Yeah, now Coburn plays Britt, the knife man. Coburn's like when they were doing this movie, they thought, okay, so the original story has a samurai who's like the ultimate samurai. He's the ultimate swordsman. How do we translate that into an age where everybody's got guns? How can you have the ultimate swordsman in an age where everyone's got guns? Because remember that this character in Seven Samurai gets killed with a gun. So what do we do? So they make him into a knife man who's faster with a knife than people can draw a gun. So that's the way they approach it. And of course,
still has one just in case.
James Coburn is just the way he moves and everything. His height is just. These actors were unique, weren't they? They were not identical, boring soy boys made in a factory. These are all completely different people with different backgrounds, different personalities. They move, they look different. You know, that this just doesn't happen in modern Hollywood.
No, I mean, just look at the way he walks. Like you started on a thought there. Look at the way he walks.
The way he moves, yeah.
Yeah.
Really gracefully, and he's really thin, but he's tall, and the way, you know, it's so this is the version of the Seven Samurai where he has a duel and just shows him, well, I would have killed you if I'd done it for real. And then this fool pushes the matter.
Yeah.
And you know what's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
I like the way the train is waiting in the background as well, with the steam going constantly. It's
yeah,
like,
well, they had to do that because you had to keep the
engine going.
The
Yeah,
going because it took so long to boil that much water.
Yeah. It's like he's just sitting there waiting for something else. He doesn't even want to be in this fight. He's just waiting maybe for the train to leave so he can go.
It's like Mark Wade talking to Antarctic Press. Tell me I didn't harass you. Tell me I didn't harass you.
Yeah. So here we go. He's egging him on.
He hasn't said a thing, and he calls him a liar. And he ignores him again.
Yeah. Let's go for real. Get up. He starts shooting the crowd. And there's the iconic bit where he just lifts his hat up like that.
Yep.
That's like, okay, you want it, you got it. I like the way Coburn as well, when you look at his facial expressions, he's really trying to copy and capture the like little bits of like cool and calm, but every now and a little bit of anger. Like the actor who played this character in Seven Samurai, he's really trying to capture the role.
Right.
Here we go.
I think they kind of mishmash some of these characters about, you know, or a little bit from this character from Seven Samurai and lend different traits to different guys a little bit.
James Coburn was a really big fan of the movie Seven Samurai. He saw it 15 times.
Wow. Yeah.
And he was hired through the help of a co-star and former classmate he went to school with.
He saw it 15 times, so he sat through it for 90 hours.
Yes.
That's commitment.
Well, Robert Vaughn was his mate.
Or 45 hours.
And Robert Vaughn actually sort of got him to get into this movie because he's, you know, you love this movie. Yeah. Why don't you apply for it? And so he got the role of the expert knife thrower. Other people who had been considered for the role were Sterling Hayden and John Ireland, and I'm glad they didn't get it because I don't even know who they are. I'm so glad Coburn got it.
Yeah, Sterling Hayden was like a bit actor in the 50s, and he was in The Godfather. That was as far as I know about him.
Yeah. So, Charles Lang, the cinematographer, 33mm anamorphic Panavision, like you were saying, it was in Technicolor, Panavision. The location was in Mexico.
Was it?
Yeah. Border town. So, like the Japanese movie, see what you mean, yeah. They've sort of mishmashed the characters. So like Chico is more like the Toshiro Mifune character who's getting drunk and rolling in saying he's the Toshiro Mifune character more because he's the one who comes from being a farmer, Mexican farmer background, but he wants to be a gunslinger.
Right. Well,
so this is exactly the scene, you know, when Toshiro Mifune comes in and he's drunk and he's trying to argue with him that he is a real samurai.
But you know what they did? So here's the thing. In today's Hollywood, if they did this, it totally would not have worked because they're taking the story that they had and changing the character, swapping it around, and they would have done it in such a clunky and terrible way. Yeah. That just wouldn't have worked. But here, given how they set up, you know, the hand clapping test earlier and his pride and him, how much he kind of like got that hero worship for Chris, they totally set it up and it totally works how they did it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're talking about with these guys in Hollywood today. This is how you do it.
Exactly. You have to know if you're going to change things up. You have to know how to do it and how it's going to work, and is it going to work? And this is exactly what they've done. They've swapped everything around. So like the young guy now becomes the Toshiro Mifune character, and the one that was Toshiro Mifune is played by McQueen. So this guy's taken on like two different roles,
And you're going to see
rolled
the
into
Robert
one.
Vaughn character later too, because you
Yeah,
remember how the swordsman in Seven Samurai gets that kind of nervous fits or whatever.
yeah,
That's the kind of thing that happens to the Robert Vaughn's character later on. So
yeah,
I mean, they kind of swap it around and make it work, and they fit the pieces in where it goes.
yeah. There was a lot of tension between Brenner and McQueen as well throughout this, because you know how McQueen, you said earlier, he wanted to upstage everybody, and because of the dialogue, there was arguments over how much dialogue they had. McQueen used different little methods to try and upstage Brenner and draw attention to himself, like shielding his eyes, flipping a coin during one of Brenner's speeches, rattling his shotgun shells, all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a complete diva. Everybody knew it. So, but actors will fight off stage and on stage.
Wasn't there some contention over who's going to get top billing on this one?
Yeah. Well, I think it was always going to be Brenner because, like you said earlier, it was his baby, wasn't it? So. There we go. So he's sleeping it off, and he joins the crew. He'll be lagging behind like he was with the original film, and here Coburn's decided to come and join them. So there's a lot of really clear similarities, but it's really interesting, like you said, the way they're reworking some of the characters.
Yeah, and it's just a credit to the screenwriters and producers and the directors that they were able to pull it off so effectively.
So this is when we got this chance to meet Robert Vaughn.
Let me kind of rephrase what I meant just now, because when they did this film, it took nothing away from Seven Samurai. You know what I mean? How some films, when you remake them, it takes away from the original. This doesn't. Yeah. This stands on its own. So, I mean, that's doing it right when you can say that. Yeah, and there's Robert Vaughn, looking very gentlemanly in his pinstriped waistcoat.
Yeah, he plays the traumatized war veteran. And if this is the 1870s, then this is obviously got to be. He's obviously got to be a Civil War veteran,
right?
And by the accent, you would imagine he would have been a Confederate.
Let me turn it up. I always thought he had kind of a northeastern accent.
Is it?
But let me turn it up and listen. Fuck if I know what that's supposed to be.
It's that's not indistinct.
Yeah.
So anybody who's watching, I'm at about 38 minutes and a half now. They're just riding into the village. They've just finished the conversation with Vaughn. And they're riding towards the village. They've been spotted by someone following them. And this is the young kid following them. So it's just like the original movie where Toshiro Mifune was following the main party.
Right.
And then he stopped to catch a fish. And we're going to see this guy catching some sort of fish or something. I don't know. Looking at the soundtrack again there, Elmer Bernstein. It was, and you said as well he went on to do so many other.
Oh, he did a lot of things. Look at Elmer Bernstein's his credits. They include stuff up to like 1990.
Yeah. So this is the main party all assembled now, all 7.
There they are. for $20 for the entire job.
Bernstein's score has been quoted in the media and popular culture loads of times. It was used for Marlboro cigarettes back in the day.
Oh, that's funny. I believe it.
And
so are they sitting around a campfire right now?
Yeah, I've got to that bit now myself where they're sitting around a campfire, they're eating, and he's sort of following them in the background. Yeah, so it came out on October 12th, 1960, in around 1,000 theaters in the south and southwest of the United States. It was a box office disappointment in the United States, but it was a smash hit in Europe. There you go. So he's caught a fish. Exactly those. I knew it. For anybody who hasn't watched Seven Samurai, watching this, there's so many things that are happening here which happen in Seven Samurai. And he's hung the fish up for them this time.
Well, in all, like I said, I'm going to say it again. Damn it! It's taking the source material and adapting it, and while having respect for the source material.
Exactly, and they do it so well.
So they've come across the kid in his little camp while he's eating his fish.
Yeah, and that fantastic score again.
And
the New York Times called the film a pallid, pretentious, and overlong reflection of the Japanese original. So what a surprise! The critics didn't like it at the time.
But the critics can go fuck themselves.
But what you were saying earlier, I think you were saying, as a Brit, what is it like watching a cowboy movie? Well, this movie really, hit gold when it came to Europe. The European audiences loved it.
And look at that widescreen shot as they're all riding up towards
it's like a fisheye lens, isn't it?
That beautiful the soundtrack in the background. Oh, man. Stirs the soul.
And then it goes down in tempo. And you get the little flute happening in the background. You could literally just listen to the soundtrack quite happily. And just like the previous movie, they're entering the village and it's deserted. There's no one there.
So, Pete, last time we had a movie with a really great soundtrack was I think Conan, right?
That's right, yeah.
And so the movie with both those movies without the soundtrack would still be good movies, but with the soundtrack, it just makes it so much better. Does that make sense?
Exactly. It really adds to the atmosphere and the emotions and it gets the blood flowing. And without the soundtrack, it would be atmospheric, but not as such. The soundtrack for Seven Samurai, I really like it. It's unique and it's really, really atmospheric. And I think that's the thing they really needed for this movie.
Japanese jazz.
Yeah, the Japanese jazz, but that heavy drum beat as well. And it's such an atmospheric movie. The battle lasts 3 days, and you've got a night battle as well, where so it's got so many elements to it. So with this movie, I'm sure they were determined to get the same sort of atmosphere, real deep, rich atmosphere to the movie. Now on Rotten Tomatoes, it's not that Rotten Tomatoes matters a damn now, considering everything that's happened recently with it. But it had a score of 88%, and it's ranked number 79 out of 100 in the list of America's best movies ever. So it's in the top 100. So I mean, I would put it higher than that, but it's an iconic piece of American cinema.
It certainly is.
We haven't seen the scene yet with the farmer cutting the daughter's hair, but here's a bit where the young lad rings the alarm to get them to come out because they were all in hiding,
right? Afraid of their
own shadow.
Yes.
3 sequels made. Return of the Seven. I haven't seen that, but I've heard it's not that great. Guns of the Yeah, Guns of the Magnificent Seven and the Magnificent Seven Ride.
Yeah, as far as those go, don't even bother with the sequels because it'll ruin these for you because these are so good. Those are just kind of hokey and silly.
There was also a TV series of Magnificent Seven, which starred Robert Vaughn. But the most famous sequel and adaptation of this movie was Battle Beyond the Stars, which we're going to be covering next time, which is, again, another reimagining of the story. So a story gets reimagined, and then that reimagination gets reimagined itself. And that's what we're trying to cover here in this in these series that we're doing right now. And in the Battle Beyond the Stars, it's a sci-fi. So you go from Japanese cinema based in feudal Japan to Western cinema based in 19th century Mexico in this case. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that music is straight out of Seven Samurai, that track. I'm sure that it's so familiar.
Oh, these drum beats or whatever
for their that melody, yeah, that sounds so familiar. I'm sure
that might be.
That melody's taken straight from.
That might be. It sure does. It sure does.
Yeah, that really sounds like something. Yeah, I'm sure that's straight from the Seven Samurai movie.
Yeah, it even has like a Japanese sound to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So the villagers are having this local celebration to celebrate the arrival of the gunslingers, and McQueen and the other guys predicting, what might be happening. These are all Aztec stuff, isn't it? Aztec gods and everything. The masks and everything.
Yeah, now they're talking about the village ladies. This is why they were hiding from you guys. Come on.
And of course, as anybody might know, this movie was satired with the Three Amigos.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
That's it. I don't know the character. Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's playing the woodcutter, Charles Bronson's character. So he's like the Joker, the one who tries to cheer people up.
Right, right.
He's made a little flute there for that young girl to play.
She's gonna put her lips on that thing after he's had it in his mouth.
His dirty mouth on it.
Probably chewing tobacco and stuff, and hasn't brushed his teeth in a week.
Hasn't brushed his teeth ever. So yeah, this is sort of like the calm and enjoyable moment in the movie where they're just settling in, and as if nothing's wrong. This is the part in the original movie where it's like, oh, they'll probably never be back. Everything's wonderful. The bandits will be back. But just at that moment, the boy comes in here to say, there's something going on. And we find it's 3 bandits, scouts, have come to suss out what's going on. So
this is what happened at the beginning of Seven Samurai.
That's right, yeah. So they've got to go and obviously kill these 3 bandits to stop them getting back to report what's going on. So Yul Brynner and the others are just going to meet to find out what's going on.
The kid up in the tree notices something's up.
Yeah. Which bit are you at now?
Steve McQueen is walking right now. He stopped. Mm-hmm. He's leaning up against a tree. Where are you at?
James Corbin's just about to go off to get these bandits. I might be a bit ahead of you. I think I'm 49.54.
Mine says I'm at 52.05. So I don't know. This will be fucked up between here and there. I'll fast forward 10 seconds.
No, it's all right. Good evening. Welcome to Boomer Watch. That's my fault because I'm on a DVD and the player I've got is just like, it has a mind of its own, this DVD player I'm using. So they're all sort of, there we go, like McQueen's just putting his gun belt on and leaning against a tree. So I think you're a bit ahead.
No, I pressed forward to catch up with you. So
Okay. This is right. So they're running up the hill. Coburn and Vaughn. They're running up the hill here to see where the bandits are. Is that where you are?
Queen is putting his belt back on. Oh, now he's leaning up against a tree.
Right. So I'm like literally a minute ahead of you. So I'm pausing. Let me know when you see Coburn and Vaughn running up the hill.
You got it. They're walking up the hill now.
That's it. You've got it there, right? I can unpause. And they've just seen the three horses.
I started when. They see the horses now. Yeah. They got
them. Yes, as far as narrative is concerned, what do you think about the idea of, because we talked about this earlier about, there's no such thing as a samurai in American culture, but you've got at least 3 or 4 actors who saw the film Seven Samurai, and there's something universal about it. Like, for instance, Coburn watched it 15 times.
Right.
There's universal about that. They watched it and liked it so much they were driven to do a reimagination, a reworking of it. So there's something even though the politics.
I mean, like I said, I don't think Seven Samurai hit the American audience or the Western audience that much in 1954. So I mean, and these guys like this film. Maybe that was a way for them to get it out there.
Yeah, I mean, something. They saw the movie. It spoke to them on a basic level,
right? And they're seeing it's not getting done. So screw it. Let's just make it.
Yeah, and how does this compare to other Western movies of the time? I mean, 1960s. You had quite a lot of.
It's the golden age, man. There's a lot of really good Westerns in that era.
Yeah, because the 1950s, apart from John Ford, I mean, there's a few good Western directors, but the 1950s is generally held as like the really corny era for Westerns, where it's like over the top, cliched.
Westerns were part of all facets of entertainment. So there were serious Westerns that were really good. There were like Western serials that were for children that would play before a real movie. Or there were, they're all kind of, they had Westerns for kind of everybody. There were Western comedies. I mean, it's really that big of a genre. So,
and this is where you see Brett is able to shoot a man from long distance with a pistol.
That's damn good.
So he's not just a knife man. He's actually, if he wants to be, he's the most accurate gunman around.
He probably just plays with the knife just to keep himself entertained, challenge himself.
I think it's really just a tip of the hat to the original character. And so all 3 of the bandits have been killed. That's different from the original, whereby they capture one of them and question them, and the old woman's allowed to kill that one. But in this version, all three have been done away with. So I've got to that bit where they're just talking about it, and
just seeing the ramifications of not getting the intel on what those guys knew, where the guy might be at. So
So it's divergent from the original movie, whereby they don't know anything now. They're none the wiser of what's going to happen next.
Right, and now they're teaching the peasants how to shoot.
I think there's a missed opportunity here, because where did they get all the guns from? Would there not have been an opportunity to say, look what I've found, all of these guns captured from dead gunslingers or whatever, or perhaps captured from, I don't know, was the Americans... Right, the Mexican War would have been before this, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they would have had these. The one in the middle is in 1872. The one on the right is in 1866. So it's at least 1872.
Are they Winchesters or
Winchesters.
yeah?
The one on the right looks like a 1866 Yellow Boy because it has the
Hmm.
brass receiver on it.
Hmm.
So I mean, yeah, you just found a pretty major plot hole where they get these
Yeah,
rifles.
they could have sort of the young kid could have brought them in and said, "Look at all
Wait,
these captured," and
right?
he could have made a commentary on the war between America and Mexico and who's benefiting from it and who's not benefiting from it. And I think
Nice.
they probably glossed over that because they might have thought, if we put this in the movie, can the audience handle it? And I think the
Right.
audience could have handled it. I think the American audience could have handled that.
No.
You know.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying. The having stolen it from somewhere. Well,
But not just that, but I mean the conflict between America and Mexico, the arms dealers would have benefited from that. The ordinary people would have been the mugs at the bottom of the pile, or you could have made a commentary on the working man, how does he get by, and all sorts of different things, and the soldiers who died, and like they did in the Seven Samurai. But I think that maybe the studio just decided, that's too emotive. Let's just gloss over that.
Let's talk about issues with this film. All right.
Yeah.
This is pure entertainment. This is how we want our comic books to be.
But yeah, I think it's a significant defining moment in Seven Samurai when they talk about that, because they're talking about what's wrong with society in terms of the constant war that they were going through.
Right, and that says something about Japanese society, where they were post World War II and all this other stuff too, right? But I mean, this is a Western. This is made for an American audience, and
and at the time, really, it was a prosperous time, the 60s. There was nothing no particular social. Well, I'm not an American, but I can't think that there was anything particularly wrong with society back in 1960. It was a prosperous time as far as I'm aware.
Just pre-Vietnam, so
yeah
we're coming off of
so it was an optimistic
here now, huh?
Yeah, so here we go. So this is a bit of comedy here from the young guy.
I'd like him a lot less than the other guy from Seven Samurai. They're pushing him hard, and I don't like him.
Yeah, I think it's the like in comedy, the young guy should be more of the fool, and he's coming across a little bit too clever.
He thinks he's clever. It's embarrassing.
That's it. I mean, Charlie Chaplin. He started out a comedy act with his older brother on the stage, and he played the the more intelligent gentleman, and they swapped it round, and he became a fool. And because he was younger, it went down much better with the audience, because it's harder for audiences to accept the young kids as being perfect and really smart. And you could even say Mary Sue's,
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen how it went down with Star Wars, that kind of thing.
Right, exactly.
So he's just discovered someone running off, and we get to find out that is Rosenda Monteros, who plays Petra, the young girl.
Yeah, and she did not get her hair cut off by the father, as you noted earlier.
Yeah. To do anything to me. Is that like a stereotypical Mexican accent?
I don't know. Yeah.
It's a bit.
I don't know what her background is, if she's putting it on or if it's legit. I have no idea.
Definitely got a Spanish name, so yeah. So it's obvious she's a girl.
Yeah, it's pretty apparent.
There's no pretense made at all.
None whatsoever. Now you can see they're building defenses like they should be.
You're a little bit ahead of me.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to speed. a bit here. This is going to be. I'm honestly going to have to make sure the next time we do this that I am watching exactly the same copy as you.
So we say this every single time. It's never going to happen, Pete. It's just going to be an ongoing joke. This is the thing about Movie Watch Lives that we're so fucking
Boomer Watch Live.
We can't get it together.
The other thing is as well that you can't flood the fields like they did in the original movie. This is, Mexico. It's not exactly a very wet place.
It's a arid, dry temperature down there, and it's hot.
So how do you make a moat?
You make a dry moat.
Yeah.
Put spikes on the bottom of it.
On the bottom, yeah.
Or make it real deep.
Yeah.
Real wide.
Wider than a horse.
Wider than a horse. Wider than a horse can jump.
Yep.
Or make it as wide as yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult to defend somewhere without water. Water is a fantastic method of causing obstacles, but it's possible, and we're probably going to see the result of everything in a minute. But it's not as strategic as the original movie, is it? We're not seeing everything, because one of the things I really love about the original movie is everything's really strategic. You get to see all the different defenses being made, and you get a map of what's going on. This is more Hollywood, where it's about the social interaction of the characters.
We're not seeing the little map on the table with the little stones or whatever they had, or anything like that. But we're seeing them interact, and we're seeing how they interact with each other a little bit more. I would say. Yeah,
and mealtime.
Yep.
In your best bib and tucker. And that costume that she's wearing is like a typical 1950s fashion style. It's nothing to do with the actual era.
It's like fake it till you make it, right?
Exactly. And I think McQueen's sitting there and he's long johns. Looks like it anyway.
He doesn't have a shirt on up at the top of it. Yeah, it's long johns.
And of course,
he's got his cuffs.
Yeah, and Charles Bronson's going double denim. Double denim.
Yep, he's got the Canadian tuxedo on. He's got that down pat.
That's what you call it. Double denim's a Canadian tuxedo. You
didn't know that?
No, I didn't. No.
Canadian tuxedo, bro.
That's brilliant. Oh, that one's going in the vault. Oh, man. Brilliant.
Put it in the filing cabinet.
Yeah, that's it. So they're practicing now, and of course, McQueen's looking at the ladies there. He shouldn't be. Should be concentrating. And there's not a great deal of rehearsal military training going on here. It's taking the backstage a bit.
Well, I mean, he's showing the marksmanship, which, he's showing him, if you can't shoot him with it, use like a club.
Yeah. Squeeze. There we go. Squeeze.
They're getting some more defenses up. They're getting some netting up to stop the riders as they're coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the net. Yeah.
It's a pretty sound tactic.
Mm. And he's back to the old man.
Yep.
The old man is Vladimir Sokolov. He was Russian.
Yeah, he sure doesn't sound like, that doesn't sound like a Latin American name.
I love those houses with the porches on the front. This is a uniquely American Mexican thing. It's
that kind of adobe house with a
But you've got the weather for it. In Britain we just don't have the weather for that kind of thing.
the house made out of mud bricks would melt in a season.
It would be gone within a week. Yeah, so this guy. It's the old man who's in an outlying building, so they've gone to say to him, do you realize you're going to have to move because we can't defend this building? So again, it's a call back to the
old man
story.
in the
Yeah.
There's still a lot of buildings like that in California, not really even far from where I live.
Yeah.
I love it. It's cool, man. I do like the set. They did a good job.
Yeah. I mean, this movie bombed, as I said earlier, but it was because of all of the critics just went really heavy on it.
Yeah, but they made it up in syndication and stuff later on, and
But it shows you that the critics are trying to be, gods unto themselves, and hopefully we're not going to see that for much more. But we saw that little wink from McQueen there, which is, being reproduced so many different times. Did you know it was also the inspiration for the A-Team?
Oh, that makes sense.
Because James Coburn was originally cast to play Hannibal.
Yeah.
In the A-Team, but they changed it to George Peppard. Yeah.
George Peppard.
Yeah. And Robert Vaughn starred in the A-Team, the final season.
Yeah, you're right. He was. He played. Yeah. Forget that character. So now they're talking about the odds they're facing and how they're going
to. So this is the bit I'm sort of getting into more, where they're looking around the village and looking at what they can defend and what they can't defend.
Right.
And this is another diversion here where the bandits are back already and they haven't even built the defenses yet. And I think this is a bit where they confront the gunslingers and say, "Get out," and they have to leave. And the villagers are really turned over because of it. I'd prefer the suspense of not seeing the bandits until right at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why they chose this decision of having the bandits return a lot quicker. What do you feel about that? What does it do for the story?
I mean, it's one of those things. They're not. That's the thing, though. They're not trying to make a horror movie. It's like that's the thing in a horror movie. You don't show the killer or the monster or whatever it is until the end of the movie, right? That's how you build up the most suspense. They're not trying to do that. They're trying to build an action movie, a fun shoot 'em up western. How do you get? How do you have more fun shoot 'em up action? Get the bandits in there.
More conflict, yeah. I suppose I might have thought the American audience wasn't prepared to wait throughout the whole movie to actually see the battle.
Well, I don't know if it's even that. I think it's just that's not what they're setting out to do.
Yeah.
It's just that they weren't setting out to tell a specific narrative story. They are, by a certain set of rules, a narrative, right? They're just trying to tell an action movie to make some money. They didn't end up making money, but they made a great western. So for that, I think it was just not even in the cards. It wasn't even like they can't handle that. They're too impatient. It was just not what they're doing.
Yeah. They wanted to see more interaction between the two groups.
Right.
So here we got Eli and his hombres.
Yeah.
And he calls them English. Hey, what are you, English? So if you're not Mexican, you're English.
Yeah.
That's the most insulting thing you can say to American, isn't it? Hey, English.
It's up there.
Also, don't make that mistake when you come back to Britain next time. If you call a Scotsman an Englishman, you'll get punched in the face. Likewise, if you call an Irishman an Englishman, the same thing. I think that's even true in Wales. Whereas if you're in England, we'll just go, "Oh, that's okay. Not to worry. Would you like a cup of tea?" I'm going into the hills for the winter.
Yeah, these talk about the walls. These walls couldn't keep us out, and he's like, "These walls are built to keep you in."
Yeah, exactly. Morg says French is the worst in my mind. Yes. If yeah, what's worse than Carl? If somebody called you English or called you French?
Oh, I know. I actually have some English blood, so I'd rather be called that.
Right. I mean, half this English occupied France for a pretty long time, so there's be English blood, and I mean the Britons are basically Celts, northwest France. They're more closely related to the Cornish, the Welsh, and the Irish than they are to the rest of France.
Make France Aquitaine again. There we go. Render it back under the crown.
Morg's an Anglophile. Well, thank you very much, Morg. I appreciate that. I shall send you a recipe for the perfect cup of tea. So here, Eli and Brenna, this exchange between them. Brenna's trying to threaten him to say that, are you willing to lose men here because we will, we're going to shoot you now. It's a pardon the pun, but it's a bit like a Mexican standoff, literally.
Yeah, no, I mean, and Eli Wallach's kind of argument for his whole predatory lifestyle is these people are weak, and
they deserve to be pushed around.
If they're weak,
yeah,
he made them available for me to take them.
Yeah, have you got the bit there where the gunfight started?
We're right on the verge where I'm at.
Right. I mean that fantastic move by McQueen there, where he flips around and 2 shots and then jumps over the fence, and then you've got Coburn putting the table in front of him. I mean, it looks beautiful, but even at that age, a bullet would go through a table, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you spoiled it for me because I'm not quite there yet.
Sorry.
That's all right. Now let's take a look at it because I'm getting up on it, and I can talk about what you're talking about. I can analyze it as we're going.
It's like the way in today's movies people hide behind cars. Most firearms now will go straight through a car.
Absolutely. There he does. Yeah, he's doing it. He knocked those guys off.
Yeah.
They're dead. And they're taking the hell out of him. Yeah, he's behind the fence, behind the table. Yeah, that table's about 1 inch thick. It would not stop a bullet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's stone really is the only thing you can hide behind at that, even at that age, because or really thick wood or sometimes
whatever kind of trees they have down there. I don't know what the hell they have in northern Mexico, like mesquite. It's a mesquite table. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you see the meat? Well, the sickle guy's just been took off the horse with a sickle. Yeah. So we're getting into the battle a lot earlier here. I mean, this is like 2/3 the way through the movie. Actually, we're already 1 hour 15. Can you believe it? It's one of those movies that you can watch so easily. You don't realize how far you go through it. I mean, it's 2/3 the length of Seven Samurai. It's only just over 2 hours.
Now, that's where I think a difference between the two movies is based upon what the guys who wrote it think the American audience wanted. Because I guarantee you, an American audience in 1960 wasn't going to stick to this 3 hour movie.
Yeah, they'd be getting hungry, wanting to go out for a burger.
I mean, they still long movies and stuff, but those were kind of their own sort of genre. That was things like Cleopatra and the Ben-Hur and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you can see how Yul Brynner moves around there, quite robotic in a way, not in a bad way, but sort of like, because he had didn't he have arthritis or something?
Oh shit, I have no idea.
He had some sort of thing which caused him, but you can see how the guy who was it who wrote, it was Crichton, wasn't it, who wrote Westworld?
Right. Yeah.
And I wonder whether he sort of insisted on Yul Brynner being in the movie version. So they think everything's over now. They've won the battle. That's it.
I would say that that's highly probable. What you were saying about how he got that Westworld. Yeah, there's a guy with the sickle.
Yeah, another fact about this movie, fun facts. a Mexican special interest group influenced the movie. Because one of the criticisms of the 1960 film is the way that Mexican peasants and bandits, led by a Jewish American actor, Elaine Warwick, are portrayed, apparently. The depiction of Mexicans would have been a lot worse had it not been for the intervention of Mexican special interest group, who advised them on Mexican culture, etc. Personally, I don't think there's any racial stereotypes here compared to some other westerns from the same era. I think this is quite. I think it's quite open and honest, and because the Mexican farmer and Mexican peasant stereotype was far worse in the spaghetti westerns. I mean, it's just taken us extreme there.
Yeah, I mean, every single one of those guys in the spaghetti westerns is dirty and has flies buzzing around his head. So
absolute stereotypes. Yeah.
I mean, this is 1960. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Sensibilities change. And
so, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, sensibilities change. Grow the fuck
exactly.
up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the.
Oh shit! Somehow the glass got shot, but no one did. No one
So are you up to the bit where they're pinned down?
Yes.
Right, and you've got the contrast of you've got you've got Charles Bronson against the brown adobe wall in his fantastic blue Canadian tuxedo. It's so good. The next time I go down to the pub, and somebody comes in wearing double denim, that's what I'm going to use. It's going to make, honestly, it's going to make people piss themselves in laughter. So this movie's been shown loads on telly, on TV.
George Harrison was a big proponent of the Canadian tuxedo.
There you go.
Abbey Road.
Yeah. But I don't think the remake will come anywhere near as close to the popularity of this movie.
Well, the remake it didn't.
Yeah. I mean, but thinking in another 30 years' time, will it last like this is, in fact, 30 years. This is 50. God, when you think about it, because you're a bit younger than me, but when somebody says 1960, it doesn't seem that long ago. But when you do the math,
it's almost 60 years. Next year it'll be 60 years.
Unreal. So it'll be 60-year anniversary of this movie next year. Yeah. It's just mad, isn't it?
It is. Fuck, I feel old.
Again, we're building up the appreciation for this character because the young kids really like him, and this is to make you really invest in the character, and then if anything was to happen to him, it would really impact you.
Like they shoot your dog in the movie, or
so this is a little bit like the way the young lad idolizes the master samurai swordsman in the original movie, where they're sort of idolizing him. Sorry.
Yeah, it's another example of them taking the themes of certain characters and mashing.
Yeah, and reworking it.
Fucking works. They set this up with the scene with the little girl and the whistle earlier. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell me, Pete, why Hollywood can't figure that out? They did at one point.
Yeah, because Hollywood's not interested in making money anymore. It's interested in just being a propaganda vehicle now.
Yeah, that's
really it's all about ideology, and it's nothing to do with entertainment, and it ceased to be anything to do with art a long time ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
The idea is, why are we here? Why are we watching a movie? Why do we attend? Why? What is this? And the fundamental questions of life, all the way back through time. People have drama, plays, poetry, stories. it's all been about the human condition. It's all been about life and how do you survive? What lessons can you learn? And now we're living in an age where culture is being destroyed. So, you know, deliberately, and
Right.
that's why Hollywood is a joke. And
No, you're right, Pete.
you know,
But just as a side note, we did pass the funniest part in the whole movie when those three kids were telling Charles Bronson's character that they all took a pool or something and they have to bury him if he dies.
yeah, that's like,
Oh,
can I have your
I
watch
don't
when you
support
die?
you, but I don't plan on dying.
Yeah. And this discussion, I'm up the bit where McQueen and the farmer are discussing, about death and life. And this is the closest I think we get. The gunslinger's talking about his life, farmer's talking about his life, and what would it be if our roles were reversed. And that's quite poignant. Now I've got to the bit where the young girls met with Chico. So this is Petra and Chico, and she's putting a hand on his face. Is that where you are right now?
It's where I'm gonna be.
All right, I'll pause it.
All right, unpause it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting.
This seemed kind of forced too. I mean, all of a sudden now they're in love.
Yeah, I think that's the danger as well when you're trying to, because sometimes they're getting it right by being different.
Maybe she's just thirsty. Maybe they're not in love. She's just stuck in this town. She's really fucking horny, and she sees a young dude, and that's where this is coming from.
Yeah, but I think where they're trying, sometimes it is a little clunky where they're trying to re-envision it, and
awkward.
So it is difficult to remake something and get it right continually, because you sort of, in a way, you have that hanging over you where you're thinking, I want to, there's this bit, we want to put this bit in, and then we want to put this bit in. And the original conception of the idea, the original director didn't have that problem.
Right, so, obviously.
Yeah. So this is nighttime now, and if it's anything like the original, we're going to have a night battle. But I think the other thing that it's a much shorter movie, so they are having to push things a bit quicker.
That's probably the reason why they're compressing some of the little threads of character into other characters.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So they're having a discussion about what's going to happen next. They haven't even built any defenses noticeably at this point.
Yeah, they had one short trench, and that was about it.
Yeah. Did you know that the tension between Brenner and McQueen, Brenner would actually build little mounds of earth to stand on, so that it'd be higher than McQueen, taller than McQueen when the shots.
I think I heard that somewhere. I'd never actually heard how tall he actually was, though.
Yeah.
Do we have anything on that?
Yeah. I don't know what the heights are. I can certainly find out.
I'll contribute a little bit to your show here for once.
Find out how tall Brenner was and how tall. Yeah, Colburn's the tallest. Colburn's without a doubt the tallest of the cast. You can tell. He was like 6'6" or something, wasn't he? He had arthritis in his fingers. I remember that some of the later roles he played, he could hardly move his fingers.
That's a bitch.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
And he was a fantastic actor.
All right. So he was a citizen of both Switzerland and the United States. Huh. Interesting. Where the hell is his height?
Yeah. I mean, Brenner was the only real star apart from McQueen. They were the two big guys.
This was kind of Steve McQueen's breakout role, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So, all right, Yul Brynner is 5'8", or was 5'8". He's not tall anymore.
He's like below average height.
Yeah. And Steve Steve McQueen's 5'10".
There you go. See? Now, interestingly as well, Hugh Brenner married his second wife while in Mexico and had his wedding reception on the movie set. How about that?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Charles Bronson's 5'9".
Yeah. Steve McQueen also deliberately got into a car accident so that he could star as Vin Tanner in this movie. So he got in a car accident so that he could avoid doing another gig.
Huh. That's
wasn't it?
Kind of a extreme measure.
Yeah, he got whiplash, so he couldn't do any more filming on a TV show he was on, so he could get out of that role.
Roll on Rawhide, that's how he got out of it?
So basically, yeah, he was contractually obliged, and then so he thought, right, I'll get whiplash.
That was Rawhide. It was
get out of it. And then that's how he got out of that, to free him up to do this movie. Apparently.
That's weird.
Yeah. Back in the day.
Steve McQueen. My brain's all effed up right now.
I don't think it was Rawhide, because that was
I'll look it up.
Yeah. Yeah, so now we've got, this is supposed to be nighttime, but as they often did in cinema, they just put like a dark filter on the lens, and it's like slightly darker, and you're supposed to believe it's nighttime. There's no way it's nighttime.
Yeah, right.
You know, but it's because it's extremely difficult to film at night.
Well, especially in this era, right? I mean,
Kurosawa did it because he was able to do it because he had those two. Remember those two bonfires? So the night scene where you got the entrance to the woods at the top of the valley where the village is, you had those two big bonfires burning. Anyway, so this is where Chico, the young guys, infiltrated the bandit camp, and he's just about to give Eli Warwick a light for his cigar. Are you at that bit yet? Or?
Yeah, I'm just about there. They're talking.
And then after that, you see Robert Vaughn waking up in he's having a fit. Because he was probably...
right, kind of having the same sort of thing that the swordsman from the Seven Samurai was doing.
A bit of a spasm because he's a veteran. He was probably at Chancellorsville, wasn't he?
Well, there's literally hundreds of places he could have been that would have been awful.
What was it? Was it Cold Mountain was the worst battle of the Civil War, American Civil War?
In terms of what, body count?
Count, casualties, yeah.
Gettysburg, that had the most. It was over 3 days.
Yeah.
And so it was like 50 something thousand.
So that's your Passchendaele, really.
Really, yeah, it is.
So he wakes up. Please no, he's he's having a fit. He's delusional. And the other guy's got to come in and help him. But this is again, it's in today's cinema, you would show characters who are completely useless and can't overcome the difficulties. This at least shows that he's vulnerable, but he's able to overcome what's going on with him. It's not a total deconstruction. It's like this is a character who has flaws, but he's learned to overcome them and deal with them.
Absolutely.
But I think he's
kind of haunted by his past. He's haunted by the people he's killed. He's haunted by just he's a guy who can't get past the misdeeds that he's done. So he's
then the Mexican farmer sort of says to him there, only the dead are without fear. So it's like, you're not alone being afraid.
Exactly.
I love this soundtrack. Hola, mama.
Yeah.
10 minutes to pretend. All right, but yes, but not you, Juan. So, and he got a little conversation here between between Brenner and Bronson.
Right.
Is that where you're at? I'm at 1 hour 30.
At that, I'm at 1 hour 33, and I'm not even there.
I don't know what the hell's going on with my player.
I don't know.
Here. And
Oh, there we go. Now they're talking.
Yeah.
Bernardo O'Reilly.
Yeah. And I think you're about to see the cup game here.
Yeah, and so he's kind of taken on the part of the role of Toshiro Mifune's character, in that he is,
the kids like him. Yeah.
Well, no, he's half Mexican, half Irish, so he's kind of got.
Yeah, I think
he has the same roots as the farmers, sort of.
Yeah, but also I think they've sort of shared out a lot of the different elements of that amongst several of the characters.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Just.
And I don't know, is this a bit overly long, this sort of lull that we're seeing?
It is a bit long.
I think it's a bit long, yeah. I mean, it's been about 10 minutes we've had this lull and there's nothing really going on.
Yeah.
So if there was a plot hole, I would say it's this moment in the movie where it's just like everybody's just chilling out. And
I think I need to grab another beverage.
You go for it. I'll keep the pot boiling.
All right. I'm going to mute this so the obnoxious animals,
because if I mute it, you won't be able to unmute.
Oh, no, because if I don't mute, then the animals are going to go off.
Yeah, you go ahead. Yep. So everybody watching, we're at 1 hour 32 now. And Chico is now talking about the food supply for the bandits and why they're going to attack, because they're starving, they're desperate. Now, in the original adaptation of this movie, Seven Samurai, before the battle begins, the samurai actually make a preemptive strike on the bandit stronghold. Doesn't happen in this movie. But it's just like a discussion between the gunslingers and the farmers about the motivation for the bandits and how long they're going to be fighting for. And ultimately, the bandits are going to keep on fighting because they're hungry men. They're motivated by hunger itself. And then some of the farmers are trying to back out and just give in. And yeah, so this is where the gunslingers are being told to leave, which it's a bit strange. On the eve of battle, they want them to leave. It's not very plausible. But this is a divergence again from the original movie where.
Sorry, I'm back.
That's all right. Just saying about how we've got this bit now where the villagers are actually telling the gunslingers to leave. So we're on the eve of another big battle, and they're telling them to leave. I don't think it's plausible, really. I mean, the villagers just wouldn't do that.
Well, they're hoping that, by appeasing the bandits and seeing that they've gotten rid of these guys, they can appease them with and buy some more time for themselves and basically submit.
Appeasement doesn't really work, though.
Nope.
Generally, it's a really bad strategy.
Yeah, and Chris and the other guys, they realize it's not going to make a damn bit of difference. They're basically, if they were to do that, these guys would be dead because they'd have no food, and their women would be carted off to God knows where, and that's it. So they're not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the for the gunslingers, they can just walk off. But it's a strange turn of events because they're actually deciding to help the farmers, even though the farmers have decided they don't want to be helped.
Right.
It's a bit weird. So the village will be no worse off. I don't think so.
There's going to be nothing left of it. I mean, these guys are going to come through. I mean, the Eli Wallach's character, I forget his damn name, basically said it. These people are they are here to provide for us.
Yeah.
They are here to serve our needs. So it's basically slavery they're condemning themselves to if they go through with this.
Exactly. A little bit of trivia, you know. Watch out for the next time. I don't know whether you see it again, but Eli Wallach, whenever he takes his gun out, puts it back in the holster, he's always looking down at his gun because he wasn't used to drawing a weapon and didn't want to look like an idiot by missing the holster.
Right.
So he's always looking down while he's putting it back in. So he's not risking losing it. So, you know, like some other actors, like John Wayne, for instance, he'll just be able to put it back in the holster without even looking. But Eli Wallach's like, make sure I get it back in the holster. I didn't notice that, but just see if we can see that next time.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Yeah, like he was mostly known for stage work up to this point, wasn't he?
Yeah. So you know what you were saying earlier about The Great Escape. And you were right, yeah. 3 of the actors and John Sturges, the director, were in Great Escape 3 years later, 1963. Steve McQueen, James Coburn, and Charles Bronson, all 3 of them in that movie.
They all played major roles in that film, too.
Yeah. And by that stage, you know, Steve McQueen, well, and once he was in, and he was a complete diva in that movie as well. I mean, he insisted on having his, you know, and the motorbike scene at the end because he was a real petrol head. And that he was like internationally famous by that stage.
Of course he was, because of this film. I wonder if that's how.
Sorry,
because he was really big into Le Mans racing and stuff like that in the 60s and 70s. I wonder if because this film was such a big hit here, that's kind of like what got him going over there in the first place. I don't know.
Well, this movie was a lot bigger in Europe.
That's what I'm saying. I'm wondering if am I misspoken? I'm wondering if because it was so big in Europe, that's one of the reasons he started going over there. And, you know, he was big into racing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. He was really into the continental lifestyle. And that's why he was perfect for The Great Escape, because it was a story of. But then The Great Escape was a big hit in America as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. I forget who. Somebody mentioned to me the other day that they have a relative who was captured and put in a POW camp towards the end of the war. I can't remember who it was, but
that was my dad's great uncle.
That's it. Yeah, you mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah, they were shot down. I think 1944. He wrote like a memoir years later.
So was he a bomber pilot or bomber
No, he wasn't
crew?
a pilot. I don't know what his job was. I don't want to say what I think it is because I'm not sure. And I'm not even sure what model of bomber it was on, but he was on a bomber. And so they got captured by some Wehrmacht guys. And there were some SS guys that were going to shoot them. They were going to shoot the prisoners, but the army officer wouldn't let them shoot them. It's pretty crazy shit. But they got sent to the POW camp. And this was in his memoir. He wrote this stuff years later. Crazy.
Yeah, so we've got the bit in the film where they've tried to go and find the bandits and see where they are. They've supposedly left. They've come, so the Magnificent Seven have come back to the town, and this is part of the film where we discover what's really happened is here's Eli Wallach here. The bandits are now back in the town.
They
and
turn the tables on them.
Yeah, turn the tables on them, and the gunslingers have got to leave. At this point, I don't know why Eli Wallach, his character, wouldn't just shoot them all dead. There's no reason why he wouldn't just shoot them all dead. It's maybe some sort of code.
Something.
Yeah. Or maybe to gain favor with them, you know, keep them in his death.
So yeah. Bond villain complex.
Yeah. That bullfight scene earlier, the reason it doesn't look that good, it was improvised. Someone found a cow. The filmmakers decided to put it in the scene. It doesn't work. Yeah, it's crap, isn't it? Yeah.
Worst part of the movie.
That's the worst part of the movie, definitely. Sometimes improvisation doesn't work. Yeah.
So now he's basically giving an ultimatum.
Yeah, exactly. James Coburn and Robert Vaughn, because we heard earlier how Robert Vaughn got Coburn interested in this. Coburn was already interested because he'd seen the movie 15 times, but
right.
have only got 11. James Coburn's only got 11 lines in the whole movie.
Yeah, he doesn't say much.
Yeah, Robert Vaughn's only got 16 lines in the whole movie. Also, although they were close friends, Coburn and Vaughn, for almost 50 years, they knew each other and were friends for 50 years, right? This is the only film where they both appear together.
Wow.
It's the only movie where they're both in it together. So best made, and this is the only one.
Robert Vaughn went on to do television.
Yeah, he was in Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah.
And more recently, he was in the British TV series, which was loosely based on the Ocean's movies, you know, like Ocean's 11 and all that, called Hustle. It's like a TV series version of Ocean's 11. It's quite good if you get the chance to see it. Some of it's all right. Some of it's a bit up its arse. But so we've got Hugh Brenner talking to bargaining. Well, Eli Wallach's in the position of power here, and he's, like you said, he's just enjoying having the power.
Right. Exactly.
And
he's unbuckling his belt now. His gun belt.
Yeah, so he's completely cooked the gunslingers. And they have to now leave. So they're going to leave in disgrace. Why did you take the job in the first place?
Because it seemed to be a good idea at the time.
Yeah. Seemed to be a good idea at the time.
That is rarely ever a good idea.
Yeah.
That's rarely ever a good reason to do anything because it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
Now the kid was about to go off and do something impulsive.
Yeah, and he grabbed his gun off him.
Because he doesn't want to get killed for some reason. Personally.
Yeah.
Go do it. Get killed, please.
And the character of the kid in this, it was an upstart, really, compared to the character of the kid in the original movie, who was very much, even almost a soy. Not just respectful, but
he was pretty soy.
He was totally soy, yeah.
He's pretty soy in this film too, man.
Yeah, you could say that. So they're discussing this together, what we're going to do. He's concerned about the village. I think this section was overwritten, really was. because they would already be out of the village by this point. There wouldn't be any messing around.
Yeah. Well,
I think, yeah,
I agree. It does get a little. It does drag a bit.
yeah. This sort of last third of the movie, the half of it, the tempo was completely off, because I personally feel that they get to that battle too quickly, and then there's a standoff, and then so I think it sort of preambles a bit at this point. So it's a fantastic movie, but it's not perfect.
No, it's not. It has a lot of elements going for it, and a lot of elements that allow you to overlook like this.
So have you got to the toxic masculinity bit yet, where Bronson spanks the kid for saying the wrong thing? Because the kid says that his dad's a coward, and he says, "You never say that. Never say that about your dad." Yeah, yeah.
Imagine some stranger spanking your kid in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine having that in a movie now?
Right.
It would just be like, no way you would get that in a movie now. It's like, how dare you? You disgust me. You totally disgust me, you horrible man. And yet there's stuff being made I won't go into, which is far, far worse. Kids being trapped far, far worse in different ways.
Right.
Absolutely. But here
and
we have...
This is your moment right here, Pete, where he's talking about it's much harder to be a farmer than it is to be one of these wandering guys going around, because you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. You have families and responsibilities, and you have to feed people.
Yeah.
As opposed to,
just wandering. Yeah. Yeah, and that's we're getting quite close to the original message of the message of the original movie, where the farmers represent the land, they represent stability, trying to you're committed, you're putting roots down, you have responsibilities, whereas the gunslingers really don't have responsibility.
Exactly.
I think, I don't know, is there a good enough portrayal of the mirror between the bandits and the gunslingers? Is there enough sort of illustration of the connection between them? Because the bandits are wanderers as well.
They're like two sides of the same coin, right?
Yeah.
On the one hand, you can do good. On the other hand, you can do evil.
Mm-hmm.
None of these people produce anything.
Yeah.
They solely get by on their ability to enforce their will upon other people with a gun. So they're not they're consumers, but they're not producers of anything. So, and the farmers, they're producers. They're producing everything that's keeping every society going. So absolutely, there's a parallel between two.
Yeah, because in Seven Samurai, you remarked how the bandits and the samurai, well, the bandits and the Ronin, wandering masterless samurai are the same thing. The some of these samurai took to being bandits. I mean, you even suggested that they could be just raiding as a means of warfare. And indeed, in this movie, the bandit band we've got here could indeed be part of a larger confederacy of bandit gangs used by whatever military dictatorship was in power at the time in Mexico, because there was one after another, wasn't it? Revolution and counter-revolution.
Always. I gotta look that up.
Was it Sanchez at this point in 1870?
I don't know what year it is, so it's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell. Place it. Sorry.
It could have been Maximilian at one point.
Yeah. Well, the Germans did do something good for the Mexicans. They taught them how to make really good beer. So there's that.
That is true.
So this is the bit where Chico says more about his background and why he is the way he is and why farmers are the way they are.
So, I mean, this is what we got in Seven Samurai as well, basically.
We didn't see any version of the old guy being killed and his building being burned. And the really significant moment where Toshiro Mifune's character holds the baby in his arms and says, "This is me. This is what happened to me. I became an orphan because of war."
Right.
There's nothing like this in this movie, as far as I can tell. So this is where, you know, the gunslingers have the chance to just walk off here and that's it, but they decide to go back. What makes them decide to go back? Well, I think it's personal honor.
It's different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Chris is motivated by honor. Harry's eventually going to be motivated by friendship to come back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they got different motivations, but I mean, honor, friendship, and doing the right thing. I think they all kind of take a choice, right?
Yeah. You know how I said earlier that this inspired A-Team?
Mm-hmm.
There's a crossover the other way as well, because George Peppard was also considered for the role of Vin, where Steve McQueen took it. Yeah. Gene Wilder even auditioned, can you believe it? For the role in this movie. That would have been wacky.
Huh.
But yeah, George Peppard did actually later star in the remake, Battle Beyond the Stars. And of course, Wilder eventually did get his cowboy role, playing a disillusioned gunslinger in Mel Brooks' Blazing Saddles, remember?
Right.
Where he holds his hand out and says, "Look at that." He says, "Yeah, looks steady as rock." And then he puts his other hand out. "Yeah, but this is a hand I shoot with."
Yes, exactly.
Gene Wilder. So here they are back in they've crept back into the village again. I mean, you know, the villagers have said they don't want them there. Why would they? There we go. He's just shot one of the bandits. Is you up to that bit where McQueen started shooting? Yep.
So, I mean, it's kind of remarkable that he let them live in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For them just to come back. This is a really good dog.
Very sporting of him, you know?
Yeah. I like the fight scene here is really good, really well choreographed anyway. Yeah, I think ultimately the one actor who comes off the worst is Horst. Right? Yeah, Horst Bultschultz. He's just not convincing, really.
No, he's awful.
He's bad. Yeah. Trying to think of who would have been better in that role at the time.
Anybody.
Yeah. And when you've got other people in the movie like McQueen and Coburn, I mean, come on, you know. So McQueen's been shot.
The studio was trying to build something on him, and he just, I mean, it didn't pan out. Like Alden Ehrenreich and Soilo, right?
Yeah. Well, this is it.
Him too.
Yeah, exactly. People want to see, you know, something noble in what they're looking at, and you know, the unfinished product. If it, oh, there you go. He's going to get shot here. He's the first one to go, I think, isn't he? There we go. Yeah. So I mean that character, really doesn't really feature in the movie that much.
Which one, Harry?
Yeah, basically the character of Harry Luck, Brad Dexter. He's now also Bronson's been shot in his arm. But yeah, Harry's not having a day. Nah, he doesn't really have much of a role. Yeah.
Harry rode all the way back just to die a sucker.
You rode right into it, exactly.
Idiot. He had to announce himself while he was doing it too. He's all, "Oh, look at you!" As loud as he possibly can.
Yeah, I'll ride right into the middle of town and get shot. Good strategy.
I know you're in the middle of a firefight, but I'm not going to go around the back door.
So, interestingly, in the final battle of Seventh Samurai, it's the baddies who like go into the building to try and take women hostage and things like that, and they're cornered. In this movie, it's the gunslingers who are inside the building. There's a sheltering in the building.
Oh, good shot.
Which bit are you up to? Because Robert Vaughn's just about to go into the building here.
I'm right there too.
Yeah. So he's freed the farmers who are going to join the fight.
I like the movie made where he grabbed the guy's rifle, pulled the barrel out of the way, shot him in the guts.
Yeah. That's a bit implausible, though. They ran all the way across the village square, and the bandits didn't even notice they were coming up behind them. That's just crap. That's a bit like that scene. You know that scene from Holy Grail where John Cleese is running from miles away. Yeah. He's suddenly upon them.
One of those guys had brought a bench with him to beat somebody with.
Yeah,
a bench.
Now Robert Vaughn has just got shot there randomly and died against the side of the wall, and that was
scraped his lip up on those bricks.
Yeah, and it was a bit sad the way he died there because it was just
the garden hoe on the back of the head, man.
Yeah. Right, so I'm at the bit where
the hatchet, the spinal column.
Are you at the bit where Eli Wallach's been shot?
Yeah. Oh, he's been shot the first time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm about 2.5 seconds behind you, I think.
And it's just random. It's just chaos now, isn't it? Now the rest of the villagers have decided to join in finally. They're whacking him off the horse.
Yeah.
And pulling him off the horse.
He grabs a stool. He's going to beat the hell out of him with a stool.
Yeah. So Chico's just pulled somebody off.
Moment.
Yeah. Chico's just pulled a bandit off the horse and he's grabbed. That was quite a good stunt, actually. He's quite acrobatic. He's jumped onto the horse. But these horses are specially trained, aren't they? So,
that was a stunt too.
Yeah. So Brenner's, why did you do it for a place like this? Why? A man like you. Why? And then he dies.
Yeah. No answer to the question.
Yeah. Now that reminds me of not High Plains Drifter. There was a what was it called?
Peasants beating the hell out of these guys as they follow the horses they've got like 2x4s and shit.
Coburn's just died.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that Bronson's about to get it. Protecting the kids, bang.
Oh, yep, that's it.
Right in his Canadian tuxedo.
Unfortunately, the Canadian tuxedo is not bulletproof.
Unlike some believe.
Yes.
And stupid kids, blah, 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 blah. You had to get them out of the way, and getting them out of the way, he's ended up getting shot.
Getting fucking killed.
They did that deliberately so they get his watch.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's over now, and
oh, Bernardo.
Yeah, Bernardo.
Charles Bronson. He's ambiguous.
Yeah.
He can play anything because he doesn't look like anything.
Yeah. Well, he's Polish background, isn't he?
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe. So the battle's over now.
And now it's the human cost.
Yeah.
He was Lithuanian.
Was he?
He was Lithuanian.
Oh. Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's
so there's the so here's the closing scene where the farmers go back to farming. The old guy's still alive, and because he never got killed, you could stay if you want to.
They weren't going to bug him up there.
Your work is done. From them, each season has its tasks. If there were a season for gratitude, they'd show up more.
Yep. And he's saying what was said at the end of the film.
Yeah.
Only the farmers have won. They remain forever.
But it's said in a lot more of a happy, everything's wonderful. The land itself, you helped to rid them of Calvera. Like, thanks very much. But it doesn't have the same poignancy as Seven Samurai, because you know how we picked up how like the samurai were like dust in the wind and they were here for a time, but the farmers would be there forever.
Yeah.
So it's a different flavor at the end of this movie where they're trying to end it on a real positive note.
Well, I mean, absolutely. And we still have a little bit to go where.
I think, does Chico stay or something?
Chico does stay.
Aye.
So I think they change it.
So they even have a bit of a romance thing going on there.
Let's see. Oh yeah, because I think Chris tells him to stay here, kid.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he sort of turns around and says, "Off you go. You can stay there if you want." And he sort of accepts the opportunity, because he always wanted to go back to being a farmer again, even though he argued the toss about not wanting to be a farmer all the way through the movie. It's like, make your mind up. What do you want to do? Exactly. And here he goes back, and goes back to be with the love of his life. So what
it's almost him unbuckling his belt like that's almost
it's like, hang on, what are you doing? Also, is there any house which is actually still standing? Because like almost half the houses are like dilapidated.
She's scraping them. She's husking that corn.
Yeah. More vigorously now, I think. Oh, there we go. So McQueen says the words, "We always lose." I bet you Brenna wanted to say that, but McQueen says it, so never mind. But yes, the young kids honoring the memory of Bernardo.
Bernardo, yeah.
So he's gone but not forgotten. And off they ride into...
Here we go. That theme comes back in, man.
Yeah. That's it. All done and dusted. And there's the line at the end. So thanks very much, everybody who watched tonight. Interesting movie. A classic Western. First Western we've done. And Steve Dye, hope you like it. Or whether you've been watching or you watch later. So next time I think we'll try and do Battle Beyond the Stars and see what happens with a story where you reinvent it again. I don't know I don't know whether you call it a classic movie, Battle Beyond the Stars, but it's certainly an interesting take on things. I don't know when we'll do that, whether it's next week or the week after. So overall, what do you think, Carl, of tonight's movie?
I really like Magnificent Seven. It's a great movie. It's got so many elements from that classic era of Hollywood, where before it got completely degenerate. It just feels like it has that Americana feel to it, and I'm really into that, man, because it's like the United States is a country that's made up of people from so many different backgrounds, but But somehow in the 19th century, we came together and forged ourselves into our own unique kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it may not have been the way it happened in the old West in the 1890s and 70s and 80s and stuff, but
Yeah.
it has. That's the feel. That's
Yeah.
what it brings back. And this film does so many things right. There's a lot. Pacing was a problem, and then just like some strange kind of Deus Ex Mechanica things.
Yeah.
You know, like they all of a sudden got the guns and shit.
Yeah.
But other than that, they do so many things right. They adapt the story to fit their needs from Seven Samurai, but they do it in such a way as they're setting up those adaptations, and it makes sense story wise. And so they're doing everything right in that department. And then you can't say anything bad about the score. You can't say anything bad about just the way it was shot with some of those shots, those widescreen shots.
Yeah.
So I mean, all in all, I had a great time. It's fun to watch and to get your perspective on it, because you're at the first non-American I've ever watched that movie with. So it was pretty cool.
Cheers. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a quote here from something called Harrison's Reports: a superb Western, well acted and crammed full of action, human interest, pathos, suspense, plus some romance and humor. So it ticks all the boxes for a Western. Maybe not the ideal Western is the lone stranger, but this is like 7 lone strangers from different backgrounds. And you're right, it sort of touches on the whole. Man.
There's so many different motifs in the Westerns. You could go lone stranger, but then there's also the one good man against the one good man against the world kind of thing. And so but
it sort of sets up things for, and I imagine it did have an influence on. I'm sure it influenced people like Sergio Leone in the later spaghetti westerns, because like you said yourself, Eli Wallach's character in this movie is very close to the character he played in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
I would say that this character would be like a super undeveloped form, and the character he plays, Tuco, in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is just like a hyper. He took what he did here and went all the way with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an important movie for a lot of the actors. It's an important movie for McQueen. He developed his reputation with this movie. It obviously inspired Westworld, because the character of Yul Brynner is identical, the costume and everything in the original 1970s Westworld movie. So it stands uniquely in the world of Western movies. It's not a typical Western, because I think they were trying to replicate some of the things from Seven Samurai, but it's definitely one of the most important Westerns written. It's not a perfect movie, but it comes quite close to it. And as far as Westerns go, it has all of the elements you normally want out of a Western as well. And it's a very entertaining movie. And it's interesting to see how difficult it is to transfer a story from one genre to another. But then if it's done well, how do you do that? And we've talked about how they've cleverly reworked some of the ideas in different ways and moved characters around. And that was fascinating. So
really
overall...
did it a clever way, wouldn't you say, Pete? The way they kind of did that, they did it very cleverly. And
absolutely. I think they were definitely sensitive to what they wanted to see, and moving things around, because they would have to for it to fit a different genre.
So I mean, the way I kind of put it is like they adapted it while still being respectful of the source material.
Yeah,
and that's ultimately, I think, when you're adapting something, the way to do it.
Absolutely, because if they didn't have that respect for the original, then it just wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, I mean, right, exactly. At that point, you'd have had them come in, if they tried to do some sort of deconstructionist thing on it, where the gunfighters come in and they do rape and steal from the people. That's what Hollywood would do now.
Exactly. They'd want to try and put their own spin on it, but like
They would make the gunfighters come in, and they would take advantage of the people, and they'd eventually get the job done, and there might be a redemption arc in there, but that would definitely happen.
Exactly. There has to be some form of toxicity in there. Instead of, admitting that people are flawed, but, ultimately it's a story about it's a story about trying to do something noble. Otherwise, why are we watching?
Doesn't that kind of, by the same token, though, show you just how nihilistic Hollywood is now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's
almost like movies these days don't have the themes of good and evil because they don't believe in anything. They don't believe in good or evil. They think everything's relative. And so you can't have movies like this where there is clearly a good side and an evil side, And while the guys on the good side might not be perfect, they're certainly not there to steal their food or rape their women or kidnap their children or enslave them.
Exactly.
So, and Hollywood likes to fucking do that, where they throw that little poison pill in there, and everyone's just a dirtbag.
Yeah, they like to concentrate on, everybody is a complete loser, and we're all doomed, and nobody's perfect by a long chalk, but without balancing that out with the fact that people are trying to make something out of the world. They're trying to do something with their lives.
Here's how I see it, Pete. I think they almost, because they are nihilists themselves and they believe that there's no such thing as good and evil, they try to frame these things in such a way that you can say no side is good or evil. You know what I mean? So like a moral equivalency.
Postmodernism. Yeah, it's postmodernism.
Like a postmodernism, moral equivalency kind of thing. And that, it's because
exactly. So
they're nihilists.
Exactly. And that's really to remove the whole idea of the individual being able to make a difference. And narrative and the hero's journey, we come back to it again, is about the fact that an individual can make a difference.
So what happens if you break down the narrative? You break down the hero's journey, right? What happens if you break down the hero's journey? You break down the hero. You break down the hero. You break down the mythology. You break down the mythology. You break down the society.
Exactly, and you break down the will to do something and the will to make a difference. And didn't we say the other night that you've got characters in comic books like the Green Lantern coming out with phrases like he didn't understand what will is. They're even saying there's no such thing as willpower, to the will to do something. So it's an obvious and deliberate attack on everything about empowerment of the individual to make a positive difference.
Absolutely.
And that's why we go back to these movies, because these movies speak to us, and we highlight the difference between what we have now compared to what we had then. And it's not just nostalgia; it shows a clear contrast about what's happening to culture, and we need to preserve what we're looking at now, because this is our culture. These films that have been made for the very reason that there's a respect for these narratives. Like, for instance, Coburn watched Seven Samurai 15 times and became a star in this movie because it meant something. It's about preserving the narratives, and I don't know, will it get to the stage where like in Fahrenheit 451, where we have to preserve these things with an oral tradition, where where books become outlawed, and we're seeing that happen now, where books are being outlawed, so we have to memorize these books and pass them on by word of mouth. So who knows? That's a discussion for another time, I think.
Certainly a sad commentary.
But ultimately, a fantastic movie, really rewarding to watch. And if anybody hadn't seen this movie before and you watched it for the first time, I'm glad you watched it because it is a really amazing piece of cinema. And everybody who joined us in the chat tonight, thank you for coming along. And we had a variety of different people in here tonight. And thank you for all coming along and being in the chat. And for everybody who'll watch recorded. And thank you once again to my co-host, Carl Hungus, for joining me tonight.
I appreciate the invite as always.
And with that, we'll say good night. Good night.